Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am here with Craig Bax, who's one of our members of our longevity class. He's also been a member of our gym for what, 4.5 years now. So he's dealt a lot with everything, obesity, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and he's going to talk to us about what happens when you ingest food, sugars, different types of food, and what actually happens to the insulin in your body and what that can lead to over time. So I'm going to turn the camera around here. Also, if you guys if you have any questions or comments, I can see those on the screen here and I will forward those to Craig if you guys have any questions, so feel free to comment and I'll send those to Craig. So I'm going to turn this around here. And here we've got Craig. He's got some diagrams up here. So Craig, go ahead and take it from here. Just speak loud so we can hear you.
Okay. Well, thanks for this opportunity to talk with your viewers about what happens when we take real food and turn it into sugar, particularly when we do things like juicing. Food is complex, and when there's sugar in food, particularly fruits and vegetables, you have to remember that it's combined with fiber and water and micronutrients. And so in general, whenever possible, it's best to ingest these foods in their natural form because it affects how they're absorbed and it affects how the body handles the sugar. So I've drawn a couple of diagrams here, and I have a list of things that I want to take home messages about high insulin levels and the bad things that happen as a result of that. The top diagram shows what happens to your sugar level or glucose in the bloodstream in 3 different scenarios, and at the same time what happens to your insulin levels. So if you eat real food, that's what the red shows here, you get a gradual rise in blood glucose and a drop because in response to that increase in glucose, you get a rise in insulin that causes the blood sugar to drop, and then the insulin level drops back again. That's normal. That's what you're going to see in people who do not have insulin resistance, who are eating a healthy diet with real vegetables and real fruit, and not getting into the refined sugars. If, however, you eat a candy bar or take a tablespoon of sugar or a sweetened beverage, or you juice a vegetable, fruit into and get rid of that fiber, water, and other micronutrients, you get a faster rise in the sugar level. That's the green here. And if you don't have insulin resistance, it'll drop back down because you get a higher spike in insulin level and it drops back down. So people who are thin, who don't have the genetic predisposition to insulin resistance can handle this at least for a time. The problem becomes when you have insulin resistance combined with these behaviors. And if you juice something and you are insulin resistant, you get a higher spike in sugar level, and it stays high longer, and in conjunction with that, you get a higher spike in insulin level, and the insulin stays up longer. Well, why is that a problem? Well, we all know that with type 2 diabetes and high blood sugar and poorly controlled blood sugar is a problem for other end organs like your liver, your heart, your nervous system. But the high insulin levels have a consequence as well. So when you're doing things like juicing or eating a lot of refined sugar that drive your insulin levels up, you're causing this problem to become worse. Let's talk a little bit about high insulin levels, which are generally more of a problem when someone is overweight or particularly when they're obese and if they have the genetic predisposition to insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, or we're not paying attention more to pre-diabetes. When your insulin levels are very high, as in these high curves here, that high insulin level takes any excess sugar that you ingest and causes it to be stored as fat. Now, I don't think I have to tell anybody that's not ideal. But what I think a lot don't know is that high insulin levels also are a driver of chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation has nothing really beneficial about it. Acute inflammation, when you're healing from an injury, is a good thing. But if it goes on for a long time, it can lead to vascular disease, nervous system disease, arthritis, even cancer. So it's something you want to avoid. So remember, that sugar and that juicing raises the insulin levels higher and you get chronic inflammation. And then the third thing that happens is if you take the sugar and you have your insulin levels spike, a few minutes later, an hour later, you're hungry again. You get these cravings for the sugar, and you get into this vicious cycle. And what happens when you satisfy those hunger cravings? You eat more sugar, it's stored as fat. It makes the obesity more of a problem, and you get into a vicious cycle. So I hope that kind of helps you understand why you don't want to do anything in your diet that would tend to raise your insulin levels higher and lead to more and more insulin resistance. So stay away from the juicing, eat real food. Thanks.
Very good. Love it. Thanks, Craig. Thanks for tuning in, guys.